basics and assignments. We are going to be using Google Meet today, and this is what you will be using in your classroom with your students this fall. I know last spring we used Zoom because we ran it through Clever, the Clever platform, and secured it that way. However, we will not be doing that this fall. Everything with our students will be run through our G Suite and through our Classroom. So Classroom has a link in it now for us to be able to get to our students, and your students cannot start a meet without you, and they cannot stay in the meeting without you either. So once your meeting is over, your students have to get out of the meeting as well. They cannot stay in and chat without you. So it is secure. There are some things they're still working on, and they're working on it. So Google is trying to secure it, and that's how we'll be doing it. I need to get a student number and then we'll start. All right. So the slideshow is yours to keep with the bit.ly link. It's in the chat. I will put the presentation link in the chat, and that will give you both the link to the presentation and to the sign-in as well. So that way you can do both. The slides are yours to keep. And please let us know you're joining us, just so we'll know who all's here. It's open to anyone, and you can share it with anybody at your school. If you're working on a single screen, those of you that have been joining us, you should know how to do this. It's also something you can share with your students. They'll probably have one device at home, probably a Chromebook. On a Chromebook, you do Alt with the bracket key to split your screen. On a Windows device, you use the Windows key in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, of your keyboard, and the right or left arrow key. So, and that will do this. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen here. You can't even see that one. So on this screen, right or left arrow key, just like this. So then they can open another tab and drag it over. It splits their screen evenly in half without them trying to resize the windows. So this way they can keep notes or follow and work on one side of the screen, and you can do the same as on the other. So you can open up a Google Doc on this side or open up your Classroom and follow me with the slides over here. That way you can practice what we're doing today. So I am going to bring this tab back over here and open this one all the way up so it's easier for you to see. The tab with the slideshow today, another tip is right-click on it, go down to Pin, and pin it. That way you cannot close this tab by mistake. If you try to close it, there's no X on it like this one. You cannot close that tab by mistake, and then you won't have to find the slideshow again. So again, to split the screen, you Windows key and split it. Bring the other tab over. When you're finished, bring your tab back. And then when you want your full screen, you have your minimizer, the full screen, and the close the screen. Just get the full screen and it goes back to normal. So student work online is the reason we do Classroom. Now, it's a communication tool for your students all in one place. It's not really a place for your parents. That's not a communication portal for your parents. You don't want your parents in the classroom. This is a place for you to communicate with your students. It has their weekly notifications, their upcoming projects, their class activities. It's a paperless flow of your classroom. And think of it, I like to think of my drive as my filing cabinet that goes everywhere with me. This is like your students' filing cabinet that goes everywhere with them. You can assign and collect work. You teach your students how to collaborate. You can teach your students how to have a blog or discuss in classroom discussions, but you have to teach them how to discuss. I'll show you where to set that to where you can turn it off. And you can tell this was available. 6:15 is when they turned it on for students. However, it took almost till July 1st for them to roll it out to all students. So when Google turns something on, it doesn't mean it's all the way out and ready to go immediately. It just means that's the date it was turned on, and it slowly rolls out to everyone. So it became available on 6:15. Organization and parent notification. Now, there is a way you can put your parent emails in here for them to receive weekly or daily notifications. However, it's called Guardian Emails, and you really don't want to set your parents up in your classroom. Students can access this from anywhere. Yes, they can, because we are in the process of getting MiFis for all students that don't have the internet. And it will shortly go out throughout the district that they can apply to get a MiFi if they don't have internet at home. And so it's all web-based. The material, anything you put in there for them to read, the videos, everything, they will have up-to-date materials that you can supply them, the assignments, everything. If we were not going to a virtual situation or distance learning or a rotation schedule, they would still have up-to-date information. And if a student were out sick for 2 or 3 days or a week, they could still have their assignments and stay up to date in the classroom. You can also assign your student work, whole class, ability groups, or TI groups, enrichment, or you can also do like project-based learning. You can assign work by groups, or you as the teacher can become the facilitator and come up with a list of projects that you would like your students to work on, and then allow your students to be the empowered learners and let them choose what they would like to learn about. But you're still guiding them and keeping them within the guidelines of your standards, and keeping them within, facilitating them, letting them be somewhat of a selector of what they'd like to learn. So the first time, if you have not signed into your classroom, you will need to go to classroom.google.com, and it will ask you if you want to be a teacher or a student. So you will need to click sign up as a teacher. Now, if this is your first time, you will not be able to do any of this today because you have to be approved as a teacher. Yes, we have students that sign up at bosierstudents.org as teachers. That's why you have to go into a holding place until we approve you through the G Suite admin person as a teacher. So teachers have different rights than students. So on the slides here, I have just for you to send me a note, and I will get you changed and into the teacher account as quickly as possible. If you're a teacher, you should have 2 items here. One is join a class. The other one is create a class. So you do get the option to create. Even if you are a student in your school's class to submit lesson plans or anything like that, you can still create a class, where students do not have that option. Students have two different ways of joining a class. To join a class, you can be given a code, or you can, as the teacher, you can invite every one of your students. Now, if you teach 150, 200, 300 students, you're not going to want to type every student's name in, because you will have to know the code of the email addresses that our students are entered in. And in Bossier, the students are entered in as the first four letters of their first name, first four letters of their last name, the day of the month they were born. So there might be several people with that combination, except for the day of the month they were born. So you have to know which John Smith had that birthday, if it's yours or not. So you probably want to give them the code to join and not type all their names in. So it's up to you. You know your students. When we first go to school, you will need to have your game plan ready to have your students in. Another thing I highly recommend, any and all classes you have from last year and any year before, you need to go archive them. Do not leave them sitting out there. That means you have all your old students still hanging out on that dashboard, and that has all your old students can still get in your classrooms, and you really don't want to do that. So I'm going to go to a classroom and show you why. So you can type classroom.google.com. And I will show you, here's a boot camp class, and I have put some students in it. So I'm going to a student, and let's see. I don't know why it signed me out of him, but this is I got permission to use a student here. So it's the right one, yes. So I will go to his apps launcher and go to Classroom. So he has all these classes from previous years, and all these classes should be archived except for this one boot camp class, because this child's going into the 3rd grade. So can you imagine by the time this child gets to high school, how many classes will be on here from pre-K? So teachers need to archive them. And to do that, a teacher has to go to their account. You, as the teacher, go to the 3 dots on the class and archive it. It does not go in the trash. It does not go anywhere. All you do is archive the class. You can always go back to it and archive classes. All the archive classes, even the ones I've played around with, I've belonged to as a co-teacher, anything I've ever belonged to is still here. I can go back and pull assignments out of any of these classes from way back when and repost them. So archive your classes and keep the classes to the current year only. So keep the dashboard clean for your students and for you, and it will help everybody involved. So this is what your students get every year. So some of the classroom settings is the name. So a lot of people have asked about special ed classrooms, even for the little bitty ones. When your parents see or help their students, yes, they can see everybody in the classroom. However, you really need to name your class. You would not name it special ed speech class or Mrs. Miller's special ed room. You can't name it that. You can just name it Mrs. Miller's class or Mrs. Miller's ELA class. You cannot name the class, label it in any way. It can be Mrs. McKay's class, health and PE, or full steam ahead. It cannot be labeled in any way as a specialty class. And then you're okay. And the reason you can't do that is because when a parent comes in here with their child at home, they can click on the people tab and they can see everybody else in this class. So if this is an autistic class, they will know that all these students are in the autistic class. But if they just see Miss Miller's class, then it doesn't matter what exceptionality they have, they are in Miss Miller's class. So you cannot label this class with any exceptionality, and then it will be okay. If you still have questions about that, if you are a special ed teacher of any sort, any services provided, go see Mr. Boyette and them in special ed, and they will explain it to you. We have discussed this, and if you do not label it, you should be okay. But that's all parents can see, so there's no different than a science class or an ELA class. If you have a problem, name it block 1, block 2. Just do not label it. So let's get out of Lucas's here and go back to mine. So we're going to go back into the classroom and talk about the classroom settings, and where to turn off some things that will get you in some trouble with students because they don't know when to comment, when not to. So in my boot camp class that we've been working in for this virtual training, the stream on your class is like a constant news feed. It never stops. It's always going. This is something you want to share with your class, like weekly announcements or just something coming up like that. You can also select the theme to go with the header if you want to change your header. You can change it to sports, anything you want up here. You can even upload your own photo like I did to put the BPSB on here, the logo. The class code is right here, as you see. And if you click the little square right next to it, it's a display, and it will display on your overhead for you, for your students. That first day, first week of school, if you would like to display it. Notice the Google Meet link is right here. Your Meet link will stay the same, and I'll show you where to turn it on. Classwork is another feed. This is where you will spend, and your students, most of their time. And we will go back and spend some time there. All the topics are listed here. If you label your classwork with topics, it helps you organize. See this right here? This is not organized. This is just a bunch of topics. But if you want morning work, it will jump to the morning work. If I want ELA, it will pull just the ELA. Internet, it will pull just the internet safety or videos, but those are labeled. But if I go to all topics, the ones that don't have topics are at the top. People will list all teachers and students. You add teachers where the little plus sign is on the person. You can have co-teachers, and you can add students here. To add your student, you would type the name of the student, and you see how it pulls up students? It also pulls up teachers. Because if it says Bossier Schools, it's a teacher. If it says students, it's a student for us. And grades. You can actually see a grade book at a glance, who is missing, what's not assigned, what's in draft mode, what was actually assigned, and what was given a grade and what hasn't. At a glance, excuse me. It has titles at the top. If you click on it, it will take you to that assignment. And you can scroll across. So let's go back to Stream. And this is where we started out, where I showed you the class code, Google Meet, and the class name. See the gear shift at the top right? This is where you name your class. This is where you begin. This is required. Last names for classes, not first names. Students need to call you by your last name. Class description. This is where you put math, science. Section is where you would put, if it's a section, block 1, block 2. If you have room numbers assigned that students use, elementaries really don't do that. And then you can put your subject down here if you want. General information, it self-generates a class code. If you want to change it, click the down arrow. You can reset it. If somebody got your class code and has handed it out to random people to join your class, reset it and go from there. You can remove people from your class and you can disable the class code. So you can do that. Also, you can show the stream, only teachers can post or comment. Your options here are students can post and comment. Students can only comment. Only teachers can post and comment. If you are a high school student or a small class and y'all are truly having discussion and like a blog type class, turn on your students can post and comment and see how it goes. But I highly recommend you monitor it closely for your students. It's all depends on your class and how that works. Classwork on the stream, you can show it condensed notifications, the attachments and details. The stream is very busy. I taught students to go to the classwork tab because it had the details there. Guardian summaries, when I told you not to let parents into your email, this is what parents need to get. They actually get a summary about there's this assignment coming up, your child had this many assignments, and they had some that wasn't turned in. They had missing work not turned in, upcoming work, and class activities. Very general, and they cannot join your class until the student joins your class. Here's your Google Meet where you turn it on. This toggles back and forth. The grading calculation is down here. And you have to hit save in the top right-hand corner. Once you name everything, this button, you have to press save. So I have added an assignment up here. Also, Classroom makes a Google Calendar for every classroom you make and a Google Drive folder. I never go to Google Drive for anything in my classroom. To look for it, I always work strictly in the classroom. So we talked about the general setup. The parent guardian actually looks just about like this. Student work, missing work, they'll divide it by classes. So if the student belongs to 3 different classes, they'll divide it up for the parent, easily read. And they cannot get it until the student joins, and they can get it daily or weekly. The classwork tab, you can create an assignment, a quiz assignment. The two are similar. The one thing that is different, if you assign a quiz assignment, you cannot return it back to the student because it was a quiz. If you create an assignment and you decide to send it back and ask the student to rework it and give them another chance to do it again, you can. Hey, you really missed my questioning here, try this again. And you can return the work to the student and ask them to resubmit it. A quiz assignment, it's a one-time and done. So if it's something you think you want to return, send it as an assignment. You can also do questions like exit tickets that are not on paper. They're done in classroom. You can do free response or multiple choice. You can submit your students' materials to be read, videos to watch, links to go to on the internet. You can give them materials that you want them to research and reuse post. A while ago when I told you to archive classes to keep it clean, you can reuse post from archive classes from last year. So if you're saying, I don't want to archive it because I use that same lesson every year, you can go back and get that lesson from the year before. You can reuse it, but archive that class so the student's desktop is not cluttered. It'll still be there. So when you click on the classwork tab, there's some important things you need to know. And on the tab, let's see, let me create a document real quick. And because I've got a bad habit, I create docs in the folder they go in. So when I create the document, and I'll name it today. So a document, if you want to give students a document to type on, everybody gets a copy, or every student. Accepting. All right, so we're going to go to classwork and do something that I got lots of calls for. Assignment. And you want students to type on a doc. Now, a lot of the calls were they can't type on my document that I'm submitting. The reason they could not type on it was, one, it was a PDF. They're not going to be able to type on it easily. Probably because you scanned an old test, and no, they're not going to be able to type on it easily. I would convert all my docs to Google Docs. The other thing is, yes, it's work on the front end, but it's worth it on the back end. So if you want them to type on your document, go to Add, go to Google Drive. Now, chances are, let me close this. It's whatever you worked on last, because you're creating your lesson. So it's going to be in recent, and every student, this is the one I just created. So if you assign a Word doc, so say it's your test for that week. Students, if you come down here, students can view the file. You click the down arrow button. Students can edit the file, means every student in your class can type on that same document. You have one document and 30 students are going to type on it and type on each other's. Or you make a copy for every student. When you make a copy for every student, this document, every student copy, goes in every child's classroom. So you can assign it to every class. So you do the test one time, and you can assign it to your 5 classrooms, to your 30 children in 5 classrooms. But you did it one time. So you can assign it to however many classes you have, or you can assign it to none of them. And select one class and only assign it to one student or 2 students. You do not have to assign it to everybody. You can select who you want it to assign to. So if you assign it to all classes, the whole class, or to selective students within one class. You select your grade, how many points, select a due date so it will put it on the calendar. If it's a writing assignment and you have a rubric, attach it. Now, the other good thing about Classroom is you can schedule this. If it's a test, you can schedule it to come out on the 17th at noon or whenever you want them to have this test. But for our purposes, I'm going to make it come scheduled for today. But you can schedule a test in Classroom to not post until the day you want students to see it. And your students will not get it. Now, it came up right here in this mess at the top. So I'm going to edit it and put a topic on it. And I'm going to put ELA and save it. So now it's not in this mess of no topic. It's down in ELA. And it will be the last thing I assigned in ELA. So 3 students were assigned. Nobody's turned it in. Well, let's go look at it. So I know Lucas got it. It's not in the mess at the top. It's going to be in his ELA work because he knows he has an assignment in ELA. Type on a document. Notice how the document put his name in front of it and the title that you gave it. So he can click on View Assignment, and this is what it shows him. Your directions will be under here, and this is what it tells Lucas. Here's your work. So he will click on this, and I actually put nothing on the work. So I did my homework today. See the turn in button at the top right corner? He would turn it in. So classroom is going to ask him, turn in your work. You have one thing to turn in? Yes. So he can unsubmit it and take it back. He can leave the teacher a comment, and if it's the littles, they probably will. They will say, hey, then you will get an extra email that day. Or this was easy. That's what we usually got. And that's all his streams. So now Lucas can come to his ELA work and he clicks on this one and he sees right here, it's turned in. He's already done it. I can go back to the teacher account. One student has turned it in. 2 have not. So if I look at the assignment as the teacher, I can see his comment. I can see Lucas has turned his in. These 2 have not. So if it's an assignment you're waiting on, you can come over here, check these 2, and email them and say, don't forget, papers are due Friday. So older students, I would recommend teaching them how to check their emails. The beginning of school, especially the AB rotation. Tiffany, I just named that type on the document. I just named it that, just so you'd know it was type on the document. You can make it type your own story. How do you keep them from typing? I'll show you how to do that. How do you keep them from deleting your questions? And it's in the slides. So to grade it, you would click on Lucas's. I did my homework today. You can build a comment bank right here in this column to put comments on there. You can give him his grade. You can send him a comment back to, hey, I would not encourage it. Return it. Return it. You don't have to return. If you return it, you can return it. So now he will know what grade he got. So by making everybody their own copy, they got it. Basically what it did was it took your one document and turned it into a template and made it to where everybody had their own copy without you making a copy for everybody. This is what making the topics on each one looks like. So you will have it organized in Classroom right here. That's what, by putting topics on it, you can divide it up by units, by weeks, subject area. It's organization to help the students and you. Another thing for Classroom, a friend of mine had the red ladybug cameras, document camera, and she taught math. So what she would do was a couple minutes before school every day, about 3 or 4 minutes, she would go into her classroom and film herself coloring on a piece of paper to demonstrate the math problem. And then she would post the video in her classroom. That way, after school, if they could not remember how to work the problem, they had this as a reference in their classroom. This is for the younger generation, like the littles, like when they first start learning to take notes. if they have to see, they can't keep up with handwriting notes, the teachers would snap a picture even with their phone and upload it into as an image into the classroom so they could have it. So it's not all about making the students write, but the more you make them write, the better it'll be. Classroom also has the question option. I'll show you how to work a question in a minute, but this is the way it looks. If you have a question and you ask them something like, I understand and I can teach this to someone else as an exit ticket, or I understand I can do it by myself, I'm beginning to understand, I don't understand yet. And students could answer that on their phone or as they walk out the door. As a teacher, you can see it on this graph right there in your classroom and never have to flip through another piece of paper. So you can put this on your overhead or display this on a board and know right off the bat that how many people understood it without exposing any student information, because there's no names, nothing. It's just a number over here on the end and some grayed out area. After the class, the teacher has the option to go back in and see exactly how each student answered the question. But this isn't the one you would display for the class. So if you really needed to know which student needed more help, you could go back and see how each one of them answered. But for the full class display, you could do it this way. That was a multiple choice question answer. So for that one, let's go back to boot camp and go to classwork and go to question. So if you type a question, there's a short answer and a multiple choice. So you can put as many options as you want or a short answer. You assign it. Students can reply to each other or they can edit their answer. It depends on what you're using it for. Maybe it's for fun. Maybe it's interactive. You really have to know your class. Some of these will probably be ungraded. So it really depends what you're asking of your students, how you want to use this one. However, I can see this one being used as a exit or just to get a feel of your class if they got a problem that day. Let me see if today's problem, if there's an assignment I returned. For one of them, somebody asked. This one right here, I don't think this one was returned. And sample spring break, June 26th. Let's see if Lucas did it, if he's the one that. He's the one that submitted it. There's his points. I don't think he can see his grade. You have to return it for them to see it. Who asked me that? I don't remember who asked that. So he has to see it be returned. Let's see how many points it was worth. Okay. Oh, that one was a bad one. He could see he had 15 points. All right. Lorna, I'm gonna have to find out that question for you. All right, docs. Somebody asked earlier about how do you keep them from changing your document when you submit something like that. So what you do is, if in the slides, if you click on this word right here, docs, it actually forces you a copy so you could do this. The way I did it was I made the students, I'll do it for this one. So this is something that I would put in assign the students. I would give them a copy that looks like this. So when I gave them something like this, I would explain to them to type inside the box, not to change anything outside the box. Oftentimes, for the smaller ones, I would highlight inside the box and slightly, very slightly color it and tell them they could type in the colored part. And they would. So if you tell them that, they can do that. Especially the little bitty ones, they cannot figure out how to type on a piece of paper at first grade, second grade without messing up your title or type in the box below. And you have to really tell them this box will grow with you. It will change the same way you do. It will grow with you, and they can handle that. The older ones, however, the older the student, you can do it differently. For spring break, you could do assignment. So I would take, this is the difference that I would do. For the little ones, I would do something like this. I would assign them the template, give everybody their own copy. For the older ones, I would say, create a Google Doc and write a full page story. And you would give them more guidelines than that. So for the older ones, that's all I would do. So you would assign it to all the students in boot camp, give them a due date. So this is a doc. And actually, if you wanted to do for all of them, then you could say, create a presentation. I can't even type, y'all. A slide. Okay. Now, for your little ones, they might need help. For the older ones, they might not. You can assign it. Go back out to Lucas. I swear. All right. Now, what date did I give it? Let's go back to mine. July 17th. Need to come up with some more. Okay. So this one right here, if you notice, it's going to have two different things. One of them was the template. This is how I would do the younger ones. I'd give them the template and nothing else. Have them type on this. But you would have to help them and teach them only type in the colored areas. The older ones, you would say, create your own Google Doc. So they would come right here where it says add or create. And they'd go to Docs. And it's going to name it, because they're doing it in Classroom, it's going to name it his name and the title of your assignment. And then you also said create a slideshow. So you add slides. It's going to name a slideshow, Lucas and Spring Break. And he can create it. This is a student that never went to Drive. It's not a student that can't find his work. It's not going to be named the beach vacation. He can name it whatever he wants on the first slide. He can name his story whatever he wants on the first thing. But in your world of Classroom and in his world of Drive and your world of Drive, everything is the child's name and your assignment name. So when he goes back to his classroom, he submits. And the reason it's 3 is because I showed you what a template looks like and them creating it. He turns it in. So an older child would have 2 items. The younger child would have 1. Then back in the teacher's world, this teacher would have 3 attachments for 1 child. She would click on the 1 child's name and grade all 3 attachments in 1 click. These only have the 1 template because they have not created the other 2. It just depends on the age of the child. So that's how I keep them from typing on your questions. The other part is draw. Students can do draw. You have to go up here, the top, and insert and draw to do that in a doc. And I taught them how to drag the word, click on the word and drag it to the color. If you click on this word right here, draw, it's a template for you to play with in the slide presentation. I'll give it to you again before we leave. That's how I taught the little bitty ones to do drawing in Google Draw. And yes, the older ones by 5th, 4th, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, they made their own digital heroes. Through Classroom, we did digital citizenship, and then they made their own digital heroes. It was just a way to get them to learn to do Google Draw and then submit it in a classroom. So this was what they came up with in being Google Drawers. Forms. Earlier today, I did one on forms. I'll show y'all before I get out of here where I put the videos. Forms can be done as tests. Forms can be done as digital breakouts. You give them a question, make them solve it like a puzzle, and then they get the next question. You can do pieces of videos and questions and answers and make the assignment do in pieces. And that's easy with forms because you can insert pictures and videos in forms. So one recommendation is insert your forms in Classroom. when you insert forms in classwork through Create, I would always add them through your drive, not as a link. Do as much as you can through your drive. It works better. The other thing is use slides as a template through your drive. Older students can build a whole slide deck. Younger students, you might want to give them one slide like I did for this one. I gave them one slide, they did their part, and then I took all their slides and put them in one slide deck for the class and shared it with the whole class. This right here, if you click on this little slide building activity, it'll force you to make a copy, but anybody can use it. It came from Google, and it's an activity that actually teaches you how to use Google Slides. It's an activity for students. You might need to, the girl that made it is from Canada, so you might want to fix a couple of the words in it. It teaches them how to drop a shadow or a reflection on a box, your text box. It'll teach you how to put a pale blue background, how to lighten a picture or an image so you can put words on top of it. It walks you through all the steps for any of this. How to insert word art, like go to insert and then go down to word art, and how to change it, how to make it look different, everything. So things you might not know how to do in slides, it's an activity and it's inserted right here in your slide deck from today. So it's hyperlinked right here. It's strictly from Google. It's just an activity, and it's a fun activity you can give to your students that will teach them how to use these tools in slides, just to teach them how to do it. Also, if you did not know, this like icon down here, the Explore button in the bottom right, will teach you a better way. This slide isn't a good one for that. Let's try this one. If you have too much on your slides, it doesn't like it. And most of these have too much. Oh, that one didn't. If you're putting an image on a slide like this, it will sometimes tell you a better way to do it. Like, hey, we can build you a better slide, and they'll tell you a better way to put that picture on the slide. Like this. Look, we can rearrange your slide. It'll look better. It's called the Explore button. If you have a big picture, they'll change it to a background sometimes. But these are yours to keep. Before we leave, though, I am going to show you where the slides are going, the videos are going for all these. If you go to the main Bossier website for bossierschools.org and go to departments, go down to technology. The Google Apps, since most of these are tied to our G Suite tools, I am uploading the ones that we've remembered to film, all these virtual training recordings here for now. And like classroom video, the full setup video is right here. Also under training, if you go to extras, there's other videos. So as we film these or record these, I am loading these right here for different ones. So if you go to the main Bossier Schools website, go to the departments, and then technology. And it's under the Google Apps button. Since most of these work with Google Apps, that's where we'll keep them for now. And they're just the virtual training recordings. So we'll keep them there. And I don't know how many of y'all know about the technology learning guide for teachers during the COVID stay-at-home order. That's up here, this little pink view the guide. We're updating that though for the fall, but this is the one from the spring, and that might have some things on there for y'all as well. And we are updating it for the fall. Well, thank y'all for joining us. Okay.